New Starship generation. Starship evolution history. V2 Starships announced by Musk. What will be different? Huge Ariane 6 milestone, and China wants its own Starlink. My name is Felix, welcome to What About It. Let's dive right in. Starship updates. The emotions after Starship's second orbital launch have finally settled, but the buzz of activity at Starbase continues. SpaceX's engineers are working to restore the launch site to its original glory in preparation for the third Starship launch, and that might be much closer than you'd expect. Workers' attention has been focused on the booster quick disconnect, which seems to have sustained some burn damage during the launch. Hopefully that is a simple fix. Efforts are also underway to analyze the condition of the orbital launch table. Over the next few weeks we anticipate new parts arriving at Starbase, like the engine chill hoses, which are currently single-use. Our photographer John has captured some shots of crews inspecting the orbital tank farm, the place where SpaceX stores the liquids necessary for Starship operations. From an aerial view, thanks to our collaboration with Redline Heli, we can better understand the layout of the tank farm. Starting from the side of the road, there is one liquid oxygen tank, followed by two liquid nitrogen tanks. Interestingly, the rightmost tank, initially intended for methane storage, failed safety tests and was repurposed as a water tank. Closer to the orbital launch mount, there are two additional liquid oxygen tanks and two more water tanks, which were also originally designated for methane. Now you may ask, where is the methane stored? Excellent question. It's actually in these horizontal tanks located adjacent to the original GSE tanks. It is becoming increasingly clear that vertical tanks may not have been the best choice, as they were damaged not only during the first but also the second launch. We expect that SpaceX will eventually phase them out in favor of more horizontal ones. However, replacing half of the tank farm would necessitate pausing all operations at the site, as they are essential even for basic procedures like engine spin prime tests. Until then, SpaceX will probably continue to hammer out the dents and hope for the best. Want to book your own ride at Starbase and see these things in person, or just enjoy one of the coolest views in the world? Go to redlineheli.com/Felix. You'll find the link in the description. We can't recommend them enough. As soon as SpaceX concluded the second Starship flight, the focus shifted towards the third launch and beyond, bringing us to the hive of activity at the build site. Last week, the high bay was the main hub of activity, and this time it is no different, with various ship prototypes being shuffled around. On November 22nd, Ship 30 was moved out of the high bay. And it finally went to Massey's, right? No. Ship 30 was relocated to create space for another prototype. Shortly after, Ship 28, which had been at the engine installation stand since August, was moved into the high bay. This relocation has brought the total count of ships housed in the high bay to 4, starting from the left with Ship 30, Ship 32, Ship 29 and Ship 28. That is a lot of ships. Why would they move 28 back to the high bay? The most likely reason for this move is final pre-flight preparations. Yep, you heard me right. This includes the removal of squid attachment points. This is an old method of lifting the prototype, since replaced by a new lifter mechanism that doesn't require these separate lifting points. Additionally, Ship 28 needs dozens of heat shield tiles installed and checked to prevent what happened to Ship 25, which lost several tiles during its flight. Once all work is done, we can expect the typical test campaign, which includes a spin prime and an all-engine static fire. The only unknown regarding this prototype is its flight profile during IFT3. Previously, an FCC document hinted that the Starship's upper stage might enter orbit and then make a powered landing in the Indian Ocean. However, given that the second launch did not achieve re-entry, SpaceX might once again opt for a near-orbit trajectory with a touchdown near Kauai. More details should emerge in the next few weeks. With all that shuffling in the high bay, Elon Musk recently tweeted a picture showing the 4 with the caption "4 more Starships, the last of V1." You know what this means, right? We are about to see some huge changes. To understand just how big of an evolution the next generation of ships may be, let us take a brief look back at history of Starship prototypes and how they transformed over time. The journey began with Starhopper, the earliest test article still present at Starbase. Not a Starship at all and only serving as a Raptor engine test platform, Starhopper achieved a modest flight, reaching only 150 meters or 490 feet in altitude. It now serves a new role as a water tank, a weather station, and a camera mount. In the meantime, engineers were working on the Mark I and Mark II prototypes. While they can already be considered Starships, they were lacking major design ideas common on today's Starships. Mark I unfortunately met its end during testing, never making it to flight. Mark II's story, on the other hand, is quite an interesting one, as it was one of 2 vehicles built at SpaceX's facility in Cocoa, Florida. That is around 10 miles from where I live. Now, do you know the name of the second one? Pause the video and leave it in the comments. Ready? It was Mark IV. However, due to various challenges, Mark II and Mark IV were abandoned, along with the idea of manufacturing Starships in Florida. At least for now. Mark III, later renamed Serial Number 1, marked another step closer to the current Starship design. While it incorporated full-size tanks looking more like what we see now, it lacked key features like flaps, heat shield, and even the nose cone. Like its predecessor, SN1 was also lost during testing. A significant milestone was reached with Serial Number 5. This prototype featured a mass simulator on top and is notable for its successful 150-meter or 490-foot hop test, which gave a green light to start production of the next generation of prototypes. And that generation began with Serial Number 8. This prototype was a more complete version of Starship, featuring a real nose cone and both aft and forward flaps. It was the first ship to be powered by 3 engines and to attempt a flight beyond mere hops, reaching an altitude of 10 kilometers or 6.2 miles. This is probably the launch that got many people excited about Starship development. After a successful belly flop maneuver, the flight ended with the rocket crashing into the landing pad. With this generation, SpaceX focused on technology demonstration. It's supposed to re-enter horizontally, but then it is supposed to be caught out of the air vertically. A crucial aspect of Starship's reusability. That is why they landed on their legs, to simulate a catch. This objective was technically achieved with Serial Number 10, which managed to stick the landing but suffered enough damage that it exploded a few minutes later. The real deal was finally achieved with the improved Serial Number 15, which not only landed successfully but also remained intact afterwards. This prototype, sporting a significant number of heat tiles, foreshadowed the next evolutionary step of Starship. Sadly, SN15 wasn't reflown and was scrapped in July of this year. The evolution continued with Ship 20 shedding the SN designation Welcome to V1, the stackable Starship upper stage. This version was the first true ship designed to reach orbit, as evidenced by its complete heat shield and the addition of 3 vacuum engines. Ship 20 also achieved the notable milestone of being the first Starship prototype to be stacked atop a super heavy booster. I mean, nowadays Starship stacking is something we see nearly daily. Back then, however, we couldn't control our excitement, even with the prototype being lifted using a normal crane. Despite the significant progress made with Ship 20 and its accompanying Booster 4, it was eventually determined that they were not fit for an orbital flight. Both the booster and the ship are currently stored in the Rocket Garden, standing as testaments to the iterative design process. From that point, you probably know the rest of the story well. Following the historic flights of Ship 24 and Booster 7 earlier this year, we saw an even more exciting launch of Ship 25 and Booster 9. Now the focus shifts to the next giant leap, the introduction of the V2 ships, with Ship 32 marking the culmination of the V1 series. So what to expect from V2? What'll make those special? We have a few clues from the man himself, Elon Musk, so let's make some educated guesses. One notable change is an increase in propellant capacity. Musk previously stated that the ship would stretch by an additional 10 meters or 33 feet. This change would make the upper stage less reliant on the super heavy booster, allowing for a quicker booster return or reaching higher orbits without refueling. While physical evidence of this change is yet to be seen, we're expecting a first longer prototype soon. Another critical aspect of the V2 generation, according to Elon, will be the reduction in dry mass. They are getting lighter. This could be achieved by doing two things. The first one is just to remove unnecessary parts. After all, the best part is no part. The second one is to change the material from which Starship is built. No, not carbon composite. Currently, SpaceX mainly uses 3.97mm 304L or X stainless steel, but for years now we've seen evidence suggesting a switch to 3.6mm steel. Shaving off a few tenths of a millimeter could be a game changer for Starship's efficiency and performance. We are talking a few additional tons of payload and hundreds of thousands of dollars saved on material with each prototype. And yet, despite the arrival of 3.6mm steel rolls back in 2021, all flight-worthy prototypes to date have been built with the thicker 4mm variant. Perhaps with the V2 ships we could also see a hybrid approach, utilizing thinner steel in less structurally demanding sections. On Starship's first orbital flight attempt on April 20th, 2023, the structural integrity was tested in a pretty spectacular way. A rocket that doesn't break up while pulling high G turns during flight is pretty much over-engineered. It doesn't need to be that strong. And one anticipated change that seems to have been abandoned is the repositioning of the forward flaps. Back in 2021, Elon Musk wrote that the current flap design could be optimized. Instead of aligning with the aft flaps, their angle could be changed so that they would be closer to the front or leeward side of the ship. This could help eliminate the section that holds the movement mechanism, which currently is rather big and has to be covered with heat tiles. Aesthetics can't be a deciding factor here if it means success is guaranteed even more. Finally, Musk mentioned that V2 will improve the rocket's reliability. While specific details are scarce, the recent mention of a third-generation Raptor engine could be a hint as to what to expect. These new engines will feature increased thrust and higher specific impulse, meaning that Raptor V3 will be even more powerful and efficient. Supposedly, the new engines are so robust they don't require shielding at all. This could be a huge mass saving for future prototypes. With at least 4 nearly flight-ready prototypes at hand, SpaceX could face a tough decision. On one hand, waiting to launch all 4 would give them valuable insights that could change the design of upcoming ships. On the other hand, SpaceX is known for scrapping a ton of prototypes even before they undergo any testing. For example, they've already started dismantling Ship 33. Whatever this new generation of ships will bring, it won't be long until we see them fly. What do you think? Will they prioritize launching existing ships before fully committing to the V2 design, or will they skip a few and just go with a more advanced prototype design? After all, Musk has already announced that he wants IFT3 to happen very soon, possibly in January. Be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments. Now would be a great time to hit the like button and consider becoming a wise supporter for exclusive SpaceX updates. With it, you get access to daily Starbase photo galleries, now including orbital, aerial, and ground photos of SpaceX's progress, and countless other extras on top. No matter how much you decide to give, everyone gets the same supporter content and access. You decide what you want to give. Check our new website as well, launch previews, road closures, the latest weather report, and our multi-stream viewer. Whataboutit.space. The link to our Patreon page and the new website is in the description, and thanks to all the supporters who help fulfill dreams for our team. We can't thank you enough. You rock. Imagine you got your chair set out and you're waiting for the countdown to hit T-0. But there is that dark cloud coming in and you can already see that dreaded lightning. Weather. Anyone who's watched a rocket launch before knows how much weather can ruin the show, from dense clouds to a complete scrub. Imagine you had an app that could easily tell you if the launch will be scrubbed. With My Radar, you don't have to guess. Say goodbye to unexpected scrubs. Wouldn't that be extra helpful? They've even taken it a step further, launching 150 satellites with SpaceX starting at the end of this year. These satellites capture images and monitor events like wildfires and hurricanes, all easily accessible within the app. Space, weather, safety, my radar ties it all together. With the orbital tracking, simply input a space track ID and there it is. Real-time tracking of any satellite or module you fancy. Dive in, explore, and you just might discover an indispensable companion for all your adventures. Stay ahead, stay informed with my radar. You're not just informed, you're prepared. Going back to the news, we're finally getting closer to the inaugural flight of Ariane 6. Arianespace, the only big player in the European launch market, has long been known for its Vega and Ariane series of rockets. The Ariane 5, its flagship launcher since 1996, was a reliable workhorse, launching significant payloads like Bepi Colombo, the James Webb Space Telescope, and most recently, JUICE. However, the aging design of Ariane 5 has gradually become less competitive in terms of capabilities and cost, leading to its retirement on July 5th after 117 successful missions. Leading to this, Arianespace has been developing Ariane 6, a cheaper and modular upgraded version of the launcher. The initial plan was to have overlapping launch schedules for Ariane 5 and Ariane 6 to ensure a smooth transition. Yet, as is common in the aerospace industry, Ariane 6 has encountered numerous challenges and delays. Its first orbital flight was originally scheduled for 2021, but as we approach the end of 2023, there is still no official launch date announced. Despite these setbacks, progress towards the first launch of Ariane 6 has been steadily picking up pace. Since October last year, Arianespace has been testing a full-scale vehicle at the French Guiana spaceport. The rocket has already undergone a launch rehearsal and a brief firing of its core stage Vulcan 2.1 engine. Finally, on November 23rd, Ariane 6 achieved a huge milestone. During a full 30-hour launch sequence rehearsal, the rocket's core and upper stage tanks were filled with liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. This was followed by a hot fire test where the Vulcan 2.1 engine was ignited and ran for 7 minutes. This test was basically a flight simulation where the engines went through all stages just like during the real deal. Even though the test concluded just after the 7-minute mark instead of the planned 8 minutes, it is still considered a success by Arianespace. The hot firing of SLS's core stage also ended prematurely, and yet the mission turned out to be a resounding success. With the core stage and upper stage hot fired, Arianespace has basically completed the full flight profile without ever leaving the ground. There is one more hot fire test scheduled for December. This one will be conducted in Germany, where the second stage will face degraded conditions. Once this test is completed, the upper stage will be transported to French Guiana and Arianespace will finally be able to announce the launch date. The word around the block is that they are aiming for April 2024. I cannot wait to see a successful launch of Ariane 6. Since its predecessor ended its career, the European launch market has basically ceased to exist. Surprisingly, alongside the development of a new rocket, Arianespace is also progressing with its crew capsule project, SUSI. Revealed in 2022, SUSI appeared to be just another project that will never leave the paper, and yet it looks like they really want to do it. At the end of October, the company successfully fired a small-scale demonstrator designed to test technologies needed for SUSI. The European Space Agency has high hopes for the capsule, dreaming of a vehicle capable of transporting up to 5 astronauts to low Earth orbit. There is also an even more ambitious goal of SUSI becoming a transport vehicle to the lunar space station, the Gateway, which will be one of the main elements of the Artemis program. SUSI's unique selling point is its design for full and rapid reusability achieved by propulsive landing. I think I have seen that one before. Additionally, the capsule will feature a payload bay enabling it to retrieve objects from orbit and return them to Earth. This could be a big deal for satellite servicing and space debris cleanup. This project, if successful, could revolutionize the crewed spacecraft market, potentially offering even more than SpaceX's Crew Dragon in terms of size and capability. However, many such projects never leave the prototyping phase, so it is best to remain a bit skeptical about it. Nevertheless, I am all for Arianespace trying to innovate and finally bring something fresh to the table. Let's move to China, where we recently witnessed a suspicious launch from the Zhishang Satellite Launch Center. On November 23rd, a Long March 2D rocket carried what was officially described as an internet test satellite into orbit. While this isn't China's first internet satellite, what's interesting about this mission is that later 3 objects were spotted in orbit despite the official claim of a single satellite launch. Have they forgotten to mention the orbital laser? Well, it's likely not that big of a deal. What this probably was is a series of satellites needed to test out data transmission between them. Details about these satellites are scarce, but they are presumed to be part of China's Gawron project. This is China's response to Starlink and other low Earth orbit constellations like OneWeb, and supposedly will include 13,000 satellites. While the primary focus is civilian applications, a portion of the bandwidth will be allocated for military use. With Starlink currently banned in China and Russia, the Gawron constellation could snatch a significant market share in these regions. To deploy such a vast network, China will likely utilize its heavy-lift rockets, the Long March 5 and Long March 8, carrying satellites in batches just like SpaceX. Additionally, China plans to involve private space companies like iSpace, Landscape and Galaxy Space to help with quick deployment. Aerospace companies really like the word space in their name, don't they? The only worrying part about the global rush for dedicated internet megaconstellations is the increasing clutter in Earth's orbit. As more countries launch their satellite networks, the risk of space becoming overcrowded intensifies. Let's hope that the Kessler syndrome, a theoretical scenario where the density of objects in low Earth orbit is high enough to cause collisions and create a cascading effect of space debris, remains just that, a theory. That's it for today. Remember to smash that like button, subscribe for more awesome content. This is what fuels the algorithm and helps us immensely. Check out our epic shirts in your favorite Space Nerd store. A link is in the description. And if you want to train your space IQ even further, watch this video next to continue your journey. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again in the next episode. Volcane. V. Almost got it. Maneuver. With ship to test technology. Yes.